Apparently 2023 is the year of trying new things in my bullet journal because in this February plan with me, I decided to go a little crazy and do a lot of new things that I haven't done before, but I think it turned out well, so I hope you guys love this plan with me. My name is Sophie if you're new here, and I do these bullet journal setups every month, so definitely subscribe if you want to see more bujo inspiration from me. But this particular setup took me like 4 hours to film, and literally the day of filming, I was still figuring out all of my ideas behind it. So let's go back to the beginning, I guess. I was at a nail salon a couple days ago getting a cute little pedicure, and on the ceiling was this rather tacky, I have to admit, version of a Renaissance ceiling. You know, like with the clouds and the cupids and the lights and the pastel blue, like all of those things that you would see in like rococo art, I think is what it's called. And I got really inspired by that for my February bullet journal theme. But also, I knew that I wanted to do something like pretty and romantic because my February bullet journal themes for the past couple years have always been usually one of my favorites of the year. I did a Greek statues theme with Cupid and Psyche in 2021. That was one of my absolute favorite bullet journal themes of all time. And then last year I also did a crown theme with flowers. And so overall, I knew that I wanted to do something really cute and fluffy, slightly Valentine's Day inspired, but not overtly. And also I wanted to do something that wasn't floral because I feel like I do florals all the time. So here I have my theme right in front of you, and I culminated all of those different ideas into basically baby cupids in these little fluffy cloud paintings with like lace and ribbon, and of course my classic clouds, because when have I ever done a bullet journal theme that didn't have clouds floating around the page as a way to take up some space? I feel like the sketch was a little crowded, but once I erase everything, you can see my line art is a lot clearer, and this is what I mean by branching out, because I decided to paint in my bullet journal this month, which is a little crazy. The last time I painted in my bullet journal was May of 2020, so like 3 years ago, and that one did not turn out so good anyways. And also, I usually don't even like painting in general, like outside of my bullet journal, because usually it gets really hard to control, and also dealing with watercolors on non-watercolor paper, because watercolor paper is 300 GSM and original notebooks are 160 GSM, is quite a challenge because you can't use too much water or else it'll bleed through the page. So it was definitely an interesting balance, but I decided to work with it because I liked the effect that the watercolors gave. They were also sparkly, so that kind of led into my heavens cloud aesthetic, and they blended well together. It was really cute pastels and gave the effect of the paintings that I was technically trying to imitate from my original inspiration. Oh my gosh, hi, editing Sophie here. Because of the watercolor crinkling my page just a little bit, it like made this little wave, and because of it, the light from the window was directly shining onto part of it. So my watercolor painting right here looks like there's a slice of like white in the middle, but it's just light, and I promise it doesn't actually look like that. So ignore that, and you'll see in the final like flip through and slow-mos and everything that it's fully painted, you know what I mean? So as you can see, along with painting inside of this frame, I also painted a little bit outside of it to add some purple like splotches, I guess, throughout the page. And I'm also tapping my paintbrush with a darker gray to just add these very organic like droplets across the page to kind of imitate, you know, the painting aspect of it. It's something I've seen other people do, and I just wanted to kind of bring it into this theme because when's the next time I'm actually going to be painting in my journal? I don't know. To be honest, it was definitely a lot of work going back and forth with this cover page, but I think at the end I love how it turned out, and the little Cupid baby in the middle, he's so cute. And now let's go on to the next page, which is going to be my calendar page and my gratitude page, and also my goals page. So I guess it's like a big, basically monthly dashboard. So starting with the calendar in the corner, I'm of course inking everything in, and if you're new to my channel, I love using this really thin Sakura Pigma Micron in size 01. It's what I outline everything in, and I love how it's really fine and detailed, that I have space to add a lot more extra stuff into my drawings. And I also decided to add this little lace effect like I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to be drawing this around this box, and like I did around the frame on the cover page. It looks really complicated, but I'll break it down really quick and simple. So basically I just draw these upside down teardrop shapes, and then on the side of each teardrop I just draw 2 little circles or little ovals, I guess you could say, and then I just draw little bumps around it. So a larger bump around the big teardrop and then the smaller ones around the little circles, and it comes out with this really detailed lace drawing, but it really took me just a couple minutes to sketch out, and it's really super easy. I did a very similar type of lace motif in my bullet journal setup for 2022, the second bullet journal of the year. So if you want to check that out, that video will be in the description box below to see all the different ways I also drew lace over there. But I really love the light pretty effect, and I feel like it goes well with the daintiness of the angels and the clouds, you know? So it all kind of came together into one big theme. Now, as I'm drawing this little cupid up top, which by the way, it was such a fun thing learning how to draw these little babies throughout this entire setup. One of my favorite things about bullet journaling is that you can learn to draw different things, and once you kind of achieve that, there's like this new drawing in your arsenal. I've talked about this before, but like for example, my January bullet journal setup was like Japanese temples, and it took me a while to learn how to draw the different types and the different styles of architecture, but now that I've spent an entire month figuring out how to do it and drawing different temples throughout my bullet journaling spreads, I now know how to draw them really easily, and it's kind of a different type of drawing to add to my arsenal. So as far as this month goes, I practiced how to draw babies and little wings, and they all look so cute. They're definitely one of my favorite parts of the setup, and I just really love how those turned out. But like I was saying, one of my drawbacks to this theme is I feel like it was a little bit not well put together. And by that, I mean, I feel like the different elements don't match. I feel like, I'm gonna stop saying I feel like, but this particular spread is my least favorite of the three that I'm setting up in this video, just because I feel like there are a lot of elements that don't really match as well. Like I'm going to start adding these pink crisscrosses in the corners of the calendar, and although I like the effect, I feel like the colors didn't match very well with the particular colors that I'm painting with. And also the flower bundle in the corner doesn't really match the whole aesthetic of clouds and angels. Like everything else kind of worked together a little better than that did. And so I feel like I was just trying to add so many elements together at once that it became a little too crowded, a little too mismatched. And it came together more on the last page, which is going to be my favorite page, spoiler alert. And throughout the rest of the weeklies, I will try to keep everything contained into one main motif of clouds and angels and not have to branch out too much into like the flower zone that I was trying to avoid in the first place, you know, just to keep everything cohesive. But this was one of my drawbacks of this theme, and I'm not going to lie to you guys if I say that it's not my favorite page. So of course, when you're making your bullet journal and things don't come out perfectly, just know that it's not perfect for everyone else too, and there are definitely a couple things I messed up on. For example, like this gratitude section, I literally did it in the wrong color. As you can see, it doesn't match the calendar, so I had to go over it and layer them, and it was just kind of a mess. I was kind of going through it as I did this spread, not gonna lie. It was like on my second or third hour of filming and it was kind of rough, but I will say it does get better on the last page. And overall, after looking back on this theme and like this setup, I actually do quite like how everything turned out, even if the spread wasn't my favorite. So just to say that if you are bullet journaling and you don't like how it turns out, have hope, because you can always improve and get better. And honestly, maybe it wasn't that bad after all. So like I said, this is basically a monthly dashboard page. So on the right in that box that is not labeled, but basically that's going to be where I put my monthly goals. And I did an entire video where I planned and goal set and organized for 2023. So if you want to watch that, it'll be linked in the description box below. But basically, I just take a lot of inspiration from those goals I set at the beginning of the year and make them into monthly goals for each month. And then I also have a gratitude section at the bottom because I think it's really important to do a little bit of daily gratitude. Doesn't have to be much, it's literally probably just a word or two that I put down here every day, but I brought this back into my January setup and I loved how it turned out, so had to bring it back for February as well. So now I'm moving on to, like I said, my favorite spread of this entire setup, which is going to be my tracker spread. On the top, I'm going to be doing a habit tracker, and on the bottom, I'm going to be doing an expenses tracker. Like I've mentioned a bajillion and a half times on my channel before, I get a lot of inspiration from Leela Journals, and she did a very similar layout to this, so credit to her for that one. But I decided to track 4 habits this month, and as you can see, they're not in the original like calendar shape. However, I do like to change things up because after bullet journaling for what's going on like 3 years now, no, this is my 4th year bullet journaling actually, I have seen a lot of the same thing in my journal, and so I like to change things up. And instead of doing the normal calendar shape, I felt like if I just did a 14 by 2, so there's a total of 28 boxes in each of these sections, it will still get the same like idea across, it'll still be functional, but you know, it's a different look, it's a different aesthetic, and that just changes things up a little bit. I've also been using an expense tracker a lot more in my bullet journal recently, brought it back again last month, and I really enjoyed using it. Please excuse my head that keeps popping into this video every now and then, but at the bottom, I'll just put 3 columns with date, description, and amount, and then total at the end. And this is not always expenses too. I also put income in here so I can see a total amount of both minus and plus as far as the amount goes. So just kind of balancing all of the money and whatever things that I have to deal with this month. So on the corners, as you can see, I have little matching frames, little cupids inside. And before you ask, yes, it was so tedious trying to draw these out. I had to measure that both of them were the same size, the same placement. I had to make sure I drew both bows the same and all the flowers at the top and bottom. But I think that the effect really comes through once all of it is inked in. And it looks like two matching, like almost pictures, like next to a bed headboard or like next to a mantle. Like it looks like it's framing the page. And I really do love how it turned out. As you'll see, there are little arrows in the top of the flower bunches on the different frames, and these are supposed to imitate the arrows that my little cupids are shooting, sending, flying, whatever you want to call it, but they're the ones that are in their bows. I drew all of them with little hearts on the end because of course it's Cupid, how could you not? The little god of love. And I just think this is a good little nod to Valentine's Day, but it's not overly pink and red and in your face, be my Valentine, you know what I mean? Anyways, but drawing these little babies and, well, they're cupids, but I absolutely loved Googling different images of cupids in different flying positions and sketching them out. And I decided to keep most of them faceless. I do this a lot in my bullet journal. I don't like drawing people that much. And so as you saw on the calendar page, I did have a face on that cupid because I thought it was so cute, but on the cover page and on these, they're faceless, and that's perfectly fine with me, just to keep them, you know, anonymous, cute little babies. I don't have to worry about drawing facial expressions if I don't want to. I also kept them all very light, and not to imitate any sort of race or anything, but just because I wanted them to just be like white, like Greek sculptures and almost like flying in the air, I guess. And it was a good contrast to the purples and blues that are going to be behind them anyway. So I might go in and add a little bit of shadow, but overall they're just very bright and angelic, and I just love how these little paintings turned out. If you notice, it does look a little off center because I haven't mentioned this yet in the video, but there is going to be a Dutch door at the end of this video. As you can see, all the tabs are already cut out because it's really awkward to do that on camera, but I wanted to make all of these spreads kind of connect in a certain way, and you'll see at the end how I do that, so stick around for that. But that's why this page seems a little off center and there's a little more space on the right than the left because there is a cutout on the left, but I'll make sure I fix that by the end of the video so it won't actually be asymmetrical. I decided to add different watercolor techniques in this particular spread that I didn't do on the cover page in the frames. For example, I made sure that I actually outlined a couple of the clouds in the picture, and I also made them darker to kind of stand out from the lighter background, and that gave the picture more depth. And I eventually went in and did this on the cover page too, just to make sure there was some contrast in the clouds. And I also did some kind of watercolor splashes around the title habit tracker at the bottom of the expense tracker just to balance out both sides of the page. And I will do this off camera, but I ended up adding some washi tape into all of these spreads. I didn't know if I really wanted to do it when I was filming the video, but I ended up finding a couple almost galaxy-like washi tapes that matched the pastel colors, so it all just kind of came together. And if you want to see those finished washi tape covered spreads, unfortunately they're not on my YouTube video, but they are on my Instagram, so here's a plug for you to go follow my Instagrams at Mingo Bujo, which is my Bujo Instagram, or the Mingo Studio, which is my personal Instagram, and you can see all of my spreads over there. So this is where I'm talking about the Dutch door that I was mentioning before. So basically I have this little strip, I think it's only like a centimeter wide at the very end, and this is where I'm going to just be painting a basic background just like I did with the other colors. I start with a very light periwinkle layer, and then I add a little splotches of color with light pink, a little bit of turquoise, blend them all together, although I don't really mind when the watercolor dries and there are little outlines. And then while that is drying, I'm going to be coloring in the Dutch door panels on the left in a darker gray. I feel like this dark color really nicely contrasted the lighter periwinkles, and I used it, as you can see, for this bow on the calendar page, for some of the title blocks in the habit trackers, and I'll definitely be using this as a way to contrast each of the darker colors. But I love how this Dutch door came out. I think it really pulled all the spreads together because they, again, were looking a little discombobulated, a little bit not connected, but I feel like by using the Dutch door and having that little pop of color on the very right just ties everything in beautifully. And just to finish it off, I used my white gel pen to add little sparkles in each of the purple. And with that, we are finally done. So I hope you guys really loved this bullet journaling setup. Let me know down below if you bullet journal what your February Bujo theme is, because I'd always love to get inspiration from all of you guys. If you like this bullet journal setup and want to see more productivity and Bujo content from yours truly, I upload every week and I would love to see you stick around. So definitely subscribe down below and like this video if you enjoyed it. Like I said, my Instagram and all my other social medias are linked in the description box below if you want to go check those out, along with all the links to my stationery that I use in my bullet journal if you want to make a bujo spread just like this one. So with that, this video is pretty much done. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and if you want to see my January bullet journal setup, it'll be right here on the screen. Have an amazing week, and I'll see you next time. Toodles!